Hello and welcome to Chatterbox, the podcast where we speak to creatives about their creative journey into the various and often trying times that are navigating the business world. In today's episode, which is aptly titled The Road Less Traveled, we're extremely lucky to have a gentleman who is one of the most prolific artists we have in Kenya. This gentleman has been the concert master for the Nairobi Orchestra on various occasions. He has played concerts across the world, but most importantly, and this is just for me, is that he has played the violin solo for one of my favorite pieces, Vivaldi's Four Seasons. It is my great pleasure to welcome Mr. David Elak to our show. Maybe we can just start by, David, you introducing yourself, because I don't think I did you justice, and also just telling us what you do.
My name is David Ralak. It's most people call me Ralak. I almost sometimes forget to answer when people call me David, but I prefer Ralak, to be honest. I am a violinist, and I claim to be a violinist by profession. And what I do mostly is I do teach. I play in orchestras, and I also have my own. I work in a school called Kenton College as a violin teacher. Yeah, that's pretty much in summary what I do. And also, sorry, I forgot to mention one other thing I sort of started doing recently. I do have a string quartet. It's called the Nairobi String Quartet, and we do performances for events, gigs, corporate events, embassy events, and weddings and stuff like that. Yeah.
Interesting. So, one of the things that has stuck with me over the years is a quote by a guy called Guy Kawasaki. That's not a joke. His name is actually Guy Kawasaki. And Guy Kawasaki used to be what they call evangelist for Apple. He used to speak for quite a bit. But then in his book, it's called The Art of Start, he speaks about finding meaning. And for a lot of creatives that we interact a lot with is, why do you do what you do? What is meaning for you being a violinist, for you being an artist?
So here's what I think. First of all, why I do what I do. I honestly don't know how I got into what I do. I'll be very honest with that. But what I do know for a fact is I'm doing the right thing. I'm doing exactly what I need and want to do, and that's I think more important, because the thing is, a mistake I had is I when I was doing what I was doing, I thought I had some meaning for it. My goal was to be able to join an orchestra. Initially, that was a meaning that I had. I wanted to join an orchestra, which I did. And then once you achieve that, then you have to think, okay, now what next?
Yeah.
Then I went to join the Nairobi Orchestra, which was a bit of the next level. And then once you join that, you lead the orchestra, and then your meaning has to change again.
Yeah.
Then you also have to think, okay, now what next? And then you go international, you play. Yeah, and then I realized maybe I'm not sure why I'm doing this.
Yeah.
I need to, maybe I'm approaching this the wrong way. I was looking outside, and not within.
Within, yeah.
Yeah.
That's very true, because, for instance, for Sticks and Stones, when we started, the one thing we did not know is what we wanted. We knew exactly what we did not want, but we did not know exactly what we wanted. And that's also meaning in itself, because knowing exactly what you do not want is also very important. And so I think, as you said, it's a process where you graduate and you basically grow, and you're able to take things as they come, because then that also means that you are able to adopt and change. And that's basically growth. I think that's signifies growth.
And the thing is, when I was beginning, like you said, when you asked me what does it mean for me, but see, that's a very difficult question, because I have to go back to the very beginning. When I started the instrument, I really wasn't thinking anything at all. Like we were having this conversation earlier. I just literally, the instrument was brought to the school. I picked it up. I started playing it, and that was it. I wasn't thinking this is an instrument for the bougie people. This is an instrument for the, middle. I wasn't thinking anything. I was just thinking, okay, I found something. But then, of course, like I said, later in life, you start realizing that you didn't just gravitate to that instrument for no reason. It has something to do with your personality that most, the subconscious side of yourself, you don't really realize until much later when you study and you mature as a human being. So what I was saying is, in the beginning, I just didn't have any reason to pick it. But what's interesting is why did I drop all other instruments? Because I was playing the saxophone, the trumpet, the guitar. I was the band leader. I was singing. Yeah. But as soon as I picked it up, it was so effortless. I just literally dropped everything else.
I think that segues into the next question I was going to ask you, which is, how does a guy who grew up in Roy Sambu, which is not an affluent neighborhood, I would say, which is not a slum, but then it's basically a step up from there, I'd say lower middle class upbringing. How does a guy come from maybe never having listened to classical music to picking up an instrument which is very much the description or the harnessment of what classical music is? How does that happen?
The first thing, the number one thing is, of course, chance. We have to give a bit of credit to chance, because, and then two, ignorance. I didn't know. I really did not know. I tell this to people and they think it's a joke. If I knew what violin was about and what I have to do to get to the place I would need to get to be happy, I wouldn't have done it. I wouldn't have done it, because it is, most people don't understand how intense. There's a reason why I'm not as, I'm still trying, like I told you earlier, I've gone back to basics.
Yes.
Because this thing has been in existence for 500 years and I just discovered it the other day. Yeah. It's a craft that has been alive for 500 years or more or less. So I just couldn't take it lightly. I have to now discover what has been happening. So I had to go back to the beginning. Every time I've been trying to get lessons here and there. So I gave it to the fact that I didn't credit to the fact that I had no idea what I was doing. So I was just moving in a particular direction. And what I realized is, also it is, everyone was playing saxophone, everyone was playing guitar.
This is in school.
This is in school, yeah. Everyone was
high
playing
school.
high school.
Yeah.
And even when I left high school and came to Nairobi scene, you look at all the TV stations, you look at you go to any club, you never see a violinist anywhere. Yeah. So I was like, maybe I could just go this direction. I wasn't even thinking economically or whether I was going to get a job. I was just thinking, this is unique enough. Let me just go this direction. Yeah. I played most of the instruments, but this one is unique. At least I can, bring something new in my experience and experience of the. But then the thing is, I went down that road so deep that when I turned back,
you couldn't.
There's no way. I wasn't noticing. Like I said, it's like gravity pulls you, and it pulls you a certain direction. Yeah. You go without even thinking about it because you're so used to that. Because that's exactly where you're supposed to have gone. So each time I tried to go the other direction, for example, focus. I went to uni. I studied agribusiness management, and that was I was fighting with myself every single day. I have to wake up, the alarm rings, and I hate.
You hate that?
I hate the fact that I have to shower for me to go to class.
It's interesting that you say that, because every single job that I've held in my life, when I was in what I'd say formal employment, every single time I woke up in the morning and I thought to myself, shit, I need to wake up, I need to shower and go to work. That's when I knew it was time to quit. And I always negotiated for open-ended contracts so that when that point got there, I'd be able to walk away without me feeling like I'm tied to it. Yeah. But you're a high schooler, about 15 or 16. You've been playing different instruments throughout your high school life. You see the violin for the first time. You pick it up. You start playing. Did it just come to you, or did you do like what the rest of us do? Because all of us have seen you on stage and we've been like, yeah, we want to play the violin. This guy is getting girls. Let's pick this instrument up. Let's try it. Did the horrible noise come out?
So funny thing is, look, when the instruments came to our school, no one, Look, if anyone knows anything about violin, if you get a new violin and you have to use the bow, you have to put rosin first. But we had no idea that's what you're supposed to do.
Okay.
So we were literally we were figuring out the instrument from scratch, how to do it. But what we had, which is quite special, which is what I still use today, is we had something called we did music as a subject, and we had music theory.
Yes.
So music theory is, if you understand music theory, you can apply it to any instrument you want. Yeah. It's like if you know what pi squared is, you can do whatever you want in terms,
in terms of calculations,
in respect to calculation of circles and stuff like that. So it's the same thing with that. Once you understand theory and intervals and things like that, you can literally
navigate.
That's how I ended up playing guitar. I ended up playing saxophone. Ended up playing, and also anyway, most instruments, I think all instruments were initially created to sort of imitate the first instrument we have, which is the voice.
Voice, yes.
So once you understand how the voice works, then you kind of, a bit of music theory, you can transfer this knowledge anywhere you want.
Yeah.
In any instrument. So so we didn't know exactly what we were doing with this instrument, and so when I picked it up, to go back to your question, when I picked it up, I already had a tune in my mind. You see,
yes,
I had, something I've been playing on the trumpet, in the band. I had a hymn in mind. And I could remember the solfa very well because I was also choir master at some point in school. So I understood how the strings work, G, D, A, E, and I understood the intervals. And all I did is just try and transfer that knowledge immediately
into this instrument.
Yeah, trying to see how this interval works, or what do I do if I want to get a tone, its space. So in about 5 minutes, I figured out how to play one tune.
One tune, yeah.
And I've never put down the instrument till today.
That's amazing, because I think some of us learn that skill. Like right now, what's happening is I'm trying to learn one particular song on the piano. That way, anytime I go anywhere and there's a piano, I can just sit down, play that, and people can think, oh, this guy's a genius. No, I'm just one song. So you've basically gone through high school, you've picked up this instrument, you have gained good insight into it, you love this instrument, you clear high school. What happens then? You're no longer at school. How do you keep this going?
So this is where the whole dramatic story of my career really starts after high school, because I have to deal with many things. The fact that I'm about to go to university. My parents want that for me very much, and I had to pick, I had an older brother who did engineering, so expectations were high.
Yes.
Expectations were high. And I come from a Django family, so education is
key.
Yeah, it seems we're not interested in land or stuff. I don't know, but just education. But then I couldn't stop myself. So anyway, I finished high school. I didn't have an instrument.
Yeah.
I borrowed from a gentleman called Luvasi. Brian Luvasi. He's also a violinist. And
shout out to Brian Luvasi for.
Yeah, wherever you are, thank you very much, because I borrowed and I never really gave it back. So that's what happened. I
stole it.
So the funny story is I went to Tanzania with it, because that's where my dad was staying at that time. Yeah. So I after high school, I had a month or something like that where I went to Tanzania, and my dad used to go to work in the morning, and all I did is wake up, play. He came at 6 p.m., went for dinner, slept like that. Morning, there's nothing else I did. And we have two, when you finish, at that time when you finish high school, you have 2 years till you go to university.
Okay.
So I had that 2-year period to kind of, decide, the course and everything I'm going to do and what I'm going to do. So that's the time I actually joined the Conservatory Orchestra.
The Nairobi Conservatory here.
Yeah, the Conservatory Orchestra, and a very, very caring gentleman called Atigala Luvai, who was the director then, welcomed me, gave me music for the orchestra, and I joined the orchestra, and that's where my sort of I was fixated on that, and I just didn't understand why and how, to the point that when I started going to university, this is a funny story, so of course I was picking university courses.
Yes.
I'd qualified for plenty, but I really didn't care what I wanted to study. All I knew is I wanted to play violin, but of course there's no university that gives violin as a degree, as a course. There's no place, only Conservatory Orchestra. Conservatory School of Music.
And at that time, it was not what it is right now. the Conservatoire.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah.
It's very.
It was
It's
still-
very new. It was still a very new
yes.
idea in the country. Well, the Conservatory has, believe it or not, Conservatory has been here since before.
During the
Since
colonial times, I think
around those times.
since 1938.
Yeah,
apparently.
it's been here for a while.
Yeah.
It's just undercover.
Yes.
Yeah,
It
people-
was for certain people.
Yeah,
It
yeah,
was-
yeah.
Yes.
You're right. Yeah,
Yeah.
because you could see Conservatory Orchestra started 2002.
Yeah. But then before
Nairobi
then,
Orchestra, I was there late 40s.
late 40s. Yeah.
Late 40s.
So ideally, and maybe this is important for us to mention, is that because at that particular time when these were starting, we were under colonialism as a country.
Yeah,
And so let's say classical music and the Conservatoire for music and the orchestra was not really open to people like us.
No,
it was
no,
not
no,
open
no,
to
no.
natives. It was not open to black people.
Yeah, and this wasn't even a Kenyan problem. It was a problem all over the world.
It was a problem all over the
Yeah.
world. Okay, so high school is done. You're practicing with a stolen violin. That's what we're naming it.
Yeah.
There's something, and I think this is very important to mention, is that there's something that a lot of African parents do, and it's not malicious. It's very well intended, but it always comes out very difficultly. Is that if you have children and you give them an education, you're investing in the children. And just like any investment, there is an expectation of a return on investment. I think I can.
we're commodities, yeah?
Yes, we are commodities of sorts. We're basically stock. I think I can give an example. Is that when I finally told my family that actually my mother, that I was quitting a job, like a formal employment, and starting a business, going into business. My mother didn't speak to me for 2 years. She was quite upset. She did not speak to me for 2 years, and that was very difficult for me. And so my question to you is this: what was the price that you paid once you said, this is the path I want to take? Because I know you eventually went to university and you started doing agribusiness management. But at some point you're like, what I want is the violin. It's pulling me towards it. This is where I feel I want to be. What was that price? What was that price in terms of not just your family, because there's an expectation there, I'm very sure, but also your friends, because, and this is full disclosure that one of the producers behind the cameras, his name is Nabster, him and Ralak grew up together. And so the type of friends that you had, I'm sure most of them had never seen or even heard of a violin or had a violin.
They don't know what I do.
Yeah, he doesn't either. Like, Nabster doesn't know. Yeah. So
because I look like a DJ. More.
Yes, that's the thing. How do you, I don't even want to say justify. Number one, there's an expectation from your family. They've invested money. You're going to university. They're looking at you becoming, your brother already set the pace. He's an engineer. They're looking at you becoming someone in society. Your friends are thinking, okay, this dude, it's not like he's going into rap music. It's not like he's going into singing benga. He's taking something else. What were the ramifications for you choosing that road less taken?
Not a very good relationship with your parents. That's number
true.
one.
Yep.
Not a very good relationship, and with your family in general. I'll spare most of the details, but I went to university 2011. Yeah, 11 for 4 years, 11, 12, 13, 14. Yeah, something like that. 11. Can't remember. But anyway, by the time I got to third year, I was studying agribusiness management, and by the time I was getting to my third year, I was really tired of what I was doing. But in my mind, I was fixated on the violin. It's just that I didn't know that I had really fully decided. I was just scared because I didn't know what really happens. I've never seen any violinist here in Kenya making any living. And neither have my parents. So I think they're justified in worrying, but they don't understand that that's
your calling.
Actually, yeah, they don't understand. I'm not sure if they understood that for real. So I fought with my parents. But this is what happened. Third year, I said I was going to, there you leave from your house in Roysambu and go to uni. I was in Apakabete here.
Yeah.
Yeah, so third year, I didn't. My friend came pick me up, and I was going. I didn't go to uni. I went to a house which I moved into. So with a friend of mine,
Yeah.
a pianist as well. So that's how I started my life away from my parents.
Your
They didn't know.
parents,
They
yeah.
didn't know until around Christmas. Maybe it was when unis closed around 20th,
Yeah.
21st. And then, everyone's supposed to be home. I'm
And
not
they were
home.
like, "Why is this
Where
guy
are
not
you?"
home?
I'm like, I'm home. Which home? My home.
I have my own place.
Yeah, it was a bit of a beef. We had a bit of a beef with my parents. And I understood. I understood exactly why they had beef. And they were and I had to really be mature about it. And I had to just be brave enough to believe that exactly what I'm doing is what I want. Although I knew it's so hard because you could be wrong.
Okay. Hold that thought.
Yeah.
Christmas, your parents call, you're not home. You just inform them that you've moved out.
Yeah, I had to tell them that I'm staying somewhere else. It was a bit of an issue, as in how do you even explain to your parents? And I'm a very I later on got to realize that I'm a very private person.
Yes.
A tiny bit reclusive. I like keeping
Your
my
space.
space.
Yes. I completely understand.
And my
that.
life and my privacy. I never used to be like that. Don't get me wrong. It's something I discovered recently. That maybe I was overcompensating for when I was a kid, maybe I thought it was an awkward thing to be like that. So maybe I overcompensated by being very extroverted,
Yeah.
which I got really good at, as
Yep.
you can see.
Yes.
So, but I prefer just keeping to my space. And I didn't really tell them as much.
As much, yeah.
I didn't tell them much. I just told them, look, I'm doing what I want. And then, what happened is people graduated. And my cousins of my same age were graduating
Yeah.
at the same time. I was supposed to graduate
At the same time.
Even my mom was graduating, and guess what? The whole party was at my parents' house.
Your house, yeah.
Yeah, my parents' house. So I have to show up there. Everyone's graduating. You're not graduating. You can see, a bit aunties are there, and
They're like,
they're just looking at you like
he's
"Hey."
lost.
Yeah, this one is.
This one is
so
gone.
I couldn't tell. I'm just sitting there. I'm like, I could. They couldn't say, or they didn't say it. Of course,
Yeah.
they wouldn't.
They
love me
wouldn't
very
say
much.
it to your
They
face.
love me very much, but
Yeah.
but they were like,
You could see it.
anyway. But me, I was good. I was like, I understand why it may be disappointing that I haven't graduated,
Yeah.
but trust me.
There's something. Which is interesting because I think you just answered the next question I had, which was, when did you know? When did you know that, okay, fine, I'm on the right path? Because for us, for instance, is when we started employing people. And it wasn't like we were employing people on a full scale. It wasn't like you're on a full-time basis. It was, we have an event, you're coming to the event, we're going to pay you this much. This is how much we're going to make sure you get in transport, you get in food, you get in compensation in terms of what you're doing. This is how we're ensuring that you're safe when you're with us. This is your accommodation. This is either your bus ticket or air ticket. We were not making ridiculous amounts of money at that particular time, but that's when we knew. That's when I was like, okay, fine, this thing is going to work. When did you know?
Would you believe me if I told you around last year?
Oh, okay, fine. That is recent.
No, I've had like those moments where you're like, what am I doing? What am I doing?
Yes, definitely.
Yeah, I've had moments, and what's important is what I realize is these moments will not stop coming. I'll have a moment where I'm like, this is it, and then after a while, what happens is something. You know how life is, man.
Yeah.
Like now the corona is here and you're wondering, why am I in the right career?
Yeah.
Like, I'm not earning
I'm
anything.
not earning. No
And
one
I
is
won't
trying
earn
to
anything.
get me
Even
to
if
come
it's
play.
yeah. Even if it's fixed, am I gonna be earning anything?
Yeah.
And after thinking about that, I just didn't really care, and that's how I even, for example, now this corona was a new. I had a new epiphany.
Yeah.
I had the virus happened, the pandemic happened, and I was like, okay, either I just, what do I do? This career is unstable. As in, it's a fact all over the world. Musicians just wouldn't.
They're not earning.
Only few actually make it, and that's something musicians need to understand. Your craft wouldn't necessarily feed you. Statistically speaking, of course, it could, but statistically speaking, it won't feed you. So find another source of income. That's why I teach.
Yes.
Okay, and that's why I've been able to just do my craft without
Yes.
thinking about money. And you see, I don't advertise myself anywhere.
Yeah.
I just do what I just love playing violin. It makes me happy that I can wake up. I wake up at 6 every day. I read and then I play. Take a break. That's all I do. If you come into my house, I live like a monk a little bit. It's just my books and my violin, and there's nothing else in my house. And then my bed.
Guys, fund this guy to get a TV and a PlayStation, please. We'll put a number
I'm good.
somewhere.
No, I'm good. Okay, at least I have Wi-Fi. You know.
Okay, that's good for books. Now, we've already spoken about this. We've touched on this a bit, but barriers to entry. If you think about it, we just spoke about the racial aspect of classical music. It was very, I'd say, active. And to be honest, in some quarters, it still is as a barrier. But I'm sure there were other barriers like in your way as you were getting into this craft, both human, maybe resource. We know you already stole your first violin. So what are some of these barriers, and how did you overcome some of these barriers?
The barriers are endless, but let me try and think of the major ones. The first thing is I must start by saying I didn't have a racial. Did you say racial?
Yes, it's
I didn't have that because you see I had an advantage of growing up in Kenya,
In Kenya,
Nairobi,
yes.
where we don't really.
It's a bit cosmopolitan,
Yeah,
yes.
we can't really say that we. I grew up in Roysambu. There was no Mzungus there to tell. I didn't really have that kind of mindset.
Yes.
And that's kind of what saved me. I didn't really think that white people this and that. I just knew they live somewhere far. That's all I knew.
Yeah.
I didn't think that they were better or worse. I didn't know anything about world history and how
There was
things
no
happen.
prejudice at that point.
I was just literally just going
Doing
with
your
the flow.
thing.
Yeah, and so I never really, even when I was joining this orchestra, I joined Conservatory Orchestra for the first time. Everyone was Kenyan.
It was Kenyan,
So I
yes.
didn't really feel like anything.
yeah.
I went to Nairobi Orchestra. I didn't really feel like I've never had that.
Yeah.
Maybe when I've gone outside there, but not really, not really much. So that's the first obstacle I didn't really encounter. But although it's real, I'm not
Yes.
saying it isn't. It's very real. I was just lucky I grew up here. The other thing is, it is an expensive art. It is an expensive art, and you most likely won't earn anything from it.
How much is a bassline violin? How much?
It's like asking what is the baseline price for a car. You can find a car for 500K and you can find a car for 60 million shillings. You know?
Or you can steal your fast car. I mean, violin. Like someone did. It's an expensive craft because you also have to buy music.
In fact, I was going to my next obstacle.
Yes.
Before you go to the music part. Yeah, I lost a violin.
Okay.
I've lost many violins. But I lost one which took my life
Several
backwards,
steps back.
completely backwards. Yeah, 2016, I remember it was Valentine's Day, Tuesday, outside Alchemist, 2016, I cannot forget. I was just going to get a burger.
At
Alchemist,
yes.
parked outside, and then I was just to go home. I was meant to go home. It was a Tuesday. I went back to the car and I was trying to put the key back in the
lock,
door,
yeah.
in the lock, and there was a hole.
Oh.
I was like, I look and there's a hole. I just went back. I just checked. There was no violin. There was no violin there, and so funny thing is, I'd received that violin because of out of it was goodwill.
Yeah.
I was actually given to try it out from Finland. It belongs to a family, and it's been belonged to them for around 2 generations, 3 generations. I don't know, but it has a history. I was supposed to try it out. If I was to like it, I was to buy it, but it got lost in my hands. I cannot tell you exactly how much it was, but just know I was wishing they stole my car and left the valley in the parking lot.
Wow.
Yeah, that's how much money.
Yes.
Yeah. So that's why it's expensive, and you don't earn much unless you're business oriented.
Yes.
And that's the one thing I'm happy that I saw earlier. I knew I loved this, but it's not gonna make me money unless I'm smart.
Unless you're smart.
Unless
Yes.
you're smart. It's not just because I love it. It's not gonna make anything.
It's not going to make you money.
It's not gonna make me money just because I love it and I'm good at it.
Most people, and this is why this podcast is called Chatterbox, is basically how creatives are navigating the business world, because the business world is very much a box. Yeah. Every time they say you're thinking outside the box, it's because they want you to be creative. But in order for you to earn money out of it, you have to think about the box and be very careful not to get trapped in the box. What are some of the ways that you actually transformed this into, I don't want to say a business, but then you monetized it?
No, it is a business. It is a business. Economy is part and parcel of our nature. It's something you have to do. Unfortunately, art is not one of those things where you can really quantify value. It's just one of those things. It's strange. So most musicians, of course, they wouldn't know how to value whatever they're doing.
Craft,
They don't know how to place it on the money scale necessarily, but it is a skill you could learn. And because it's a skill you could learn, that means it takes effort. And musicians don't have time for that. We need to. We really don't have time, and that's why, of course, people have managers. Yeah.
Yes.
We don't have time to learn, and understandably, but I hope musicians understand that you will suffer if you don't understand
the business side of it.
Yeah, if you don't understand that, you're fine. If you're playing for fun,
that's okay.
It's cool. If you don't mind not getting money, I don't mind not getting money now. I don't mind. I don't care for instant gratification. If you're making money from it, then you've immediately converted that into a business. But now you don't have any business skills, but you still insist on operating the same way you've been operating. And that's where I think artists go wrong. So what people need to understand is whatever it is you're being paid for, that is your commodity.
Yes.
So how do you increase its value? How do you market it?
How do you diversify?
Yeah, how do you diversify it? Yeah. And where is it on the international scale?
Yeah.
Because art is not like being employed. You have to justify your craft when you wake up tomorrow.
Yes.
When you do well today, tomorrow you have to wake up and justify it. You can't just be employed and being paid every month. Like anyone, if you're sick for 2, you still get your salary. People are still getting salaries and they're chilling.
And they're chilling at home. Yeah. Working from home.
Yeah, working from home. It just doesn't work like that.
It doesn't work like that.
So people need to understand that it's a commodity if you just learn how to brand it. And unfortunately, it's difficult because if you accept a gig for 5K today,
you won't take
which you need, to be honest, because you don't have any other source of income. Even if you're so good, you'll take it. But the problem, if you take that gig tomorrow, that person,
5K.
They'll be like, it was 5K, and then it'll spread like that. And after 2 years, after 5 years, you're still earning 5K. Maybe let's say 10K, or maybe 15K from you.
And people come up to you and they're like, yo, dude, I'm a return customer, man. Like, I'll give you 3K. Like,
clients are full of shit. I must be honest. They're full of shit.
It's true.
They're full of shit. And musicians are in a bad place because they need to be alive. They need to eat. But I wish musicians just would understand that whatever they're doing might not feed them. So they need to just put the ego down aside a little bit, find a way to make money so they can actually perfect. Exactly what I'm doing now is I'm teaching here, but I'm reserving all my extra time just for my craft.
Your craft.
It's been 10 years, I'm still perfecting it. And I'm not trying to go out. And that's why I know what I'm doing is exactly what I need to do. I'm not trying to do I'm not trying to go out there. The time, people say, people always tell me these things like, there's no right time, there's no right time. People, if you know what you're doing, there's a right time. If you know what you're doing. If you don't know what you're doing, then just guess around. Yeah.
So, if you could go back and talk to your younger self when you were just starting out, what's the one piece of advice, like solid piece of advice you'd give to yourself?
I'm one man who never really have have regrets. But what would I tell myself? I'd have told myself that being right or wrong is not important.
I feel you on that.
Being right or wrong is not really important. At all, because I think most of us spend most of our time is trying to figure out to prove, for example, my dad wrong that this is what I was trying to do. But once you get there, what next? Now what? It's like I don't mean to get philosophical. It's like the question of whether God is there or not. I know this is off topic, but what's the point of answering that? It really doesn't matter if you believe in God or not, in my opinion, sorry. What's your answer? For example, if you argue now and I discover there's no God, and then what? See, I'm just going to go back to my miserable life. What if you discover there's God? See, I'm still going to go back to my life. What are you going to do about it if you discover? Anyway.
So it doesn't matter if you're right or wrong.
Just do what. Learn yourself. And whatever is inside there is maybe what you should try and do. If the repercussions are bad, then negative, it's not what. Just follow your. In short, people
Follow
need to.
your heart.
Yeah, I could have followed my parents' advice, which was really good. I could have. But if I did, I'd be miserable, right? I'd be so. And they meant well for me. They meant well. And also the other thing I would tell myself, what is true today might not be true tomorrow.
Yeah.
And you there's a possibility you're always wrong, even if everything is pointing
Everything is
towards
right.
that direction.
Everything may look right,
could
but
be wrong.
you could be wrong.
The universe doesn't work that way. Things change.
Okay. So this, let's say, craft that you practice, playing the violin or being in the orchestra, is still very new or novel in the country. Because then, let's say, it's been on for years and years and years in Europe and maybe in America and in other places. What do you feel can be done on a personal level, you as Ralak, on a community level, that means us as a society, maybe on a national level as a country, and maybe on a continental level as Africa? What can be done to make it better or easier for people trying to join this craft?
I think my answer would revolve around people won't do it because they don't understand the importance. They don't understand why they have to do it. It's expensive. People don't really see the benefit because it's not explicit. It's implicit. I'll give you this for instance. I can't prove this scientifically yet, but I'm sure some people can. But it really, really, really makes your mind function differently. Not when you play an instrument. People always say, you can play an instrument, it helps you in school. But I don't think that's the case necessarily.
Yeah.
It's how you actually do it. Okay, there's lots of people who play the violin, but if you understand how to play the instrument properly, you'll realize that it is a whole big scientific machine that you have to understand a lot of physics. You understand a lot of how gravity works. You have to understand how so many things which are not really musical.
Yes.
And then you start realizing this thing is very connected to the life. Okay, your personality is so connected to your instrument. It's a very strange connection. I wouldn't want to go into it right now. Mm-hmm. But what I can say is people need to understand that it is actually a mind-opening experience. It's not. It is a very difficult craft which you have to go through so many rules. So many. It's like going through. You have to go through. I've been at it for 10 years. I'm not really where I need to be. Yeah. So people need to understand that. Now, my personality has also changed because of the instrument. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it has changed because of what I've had to do to learn the instrument. I've had to humble myself. I used to be arrogant. But the more you learn about your instrument, you realize you don't know. You have to humble yourself. That's the one thing. It really changes your personality and then you're thinking. You see, I think I'm a very reasonable human being, and I tend to make very reasonable choices. For example, I never used to make them before in my life at all. For my friends would know this. I've done all the ridiculous shit that you can think of. I can't even mention anything here because
we already know you stole a violin, so that one we know.
Yeah, can you imagine that was just after finishing high school? Well, but anyway, let's.
So I think
that's the point.
I think being what you're saying is. We need to open our minds to the possibilities. I think that is where anything can start. Yeah. Even if we have infrastructure, if we have financial, all of that, if our minds are not open, then we are not really going to get there.
Maybe, I don't know, maybe it can be introduced as people shouldn't go into it because of the money.
Yes.
Yeah, I to be honest, I would not lie. I do not know how to make this thing popular, apart from one way. I don't know how to make these people understand that this is good. And I think the only way to do it is not by coming up with. I think it's by me just doing what I do really well. And if and that's gonna be living. That's just
exactly
evidence.
Because
right now there's a I sometimes I see there's a project called Ghetto Classics. I went there one day and the kids. I didn't understand that the kids actually really look up to me. I did not understand that until one day I went there. And they're like,
Ralak is
Yeah,
here.
I was like, what? I realized then if that's the effect, if that's how I can get people to
get
what
into
I need to do is very simple. Just go perfect your craft, and that's all you need to do. And then once you're ready, go out there and show people, and people will be, because of the amount of process I've taken into getting to where I am, people will start respecting.
Respecting
Once
the
people,
craft,
yes, people don't respect it now. People don't respect at all musicians at all. They think we just play in bars. Partly true though, but people don't respect the art. But if I can make it in such a way that I am this successful in my craft, and then now I show people this is the evidence, this is the map I used.
Yes.
It's not a myth.
Yeah.
It's not a myth. If I can do that,
There's no guesswork.
Then because human beings don't like putting effort. They don't like going where they're gonna struggle.
Where it's difficult.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Where you gonna get a job as a violinist? I don't know. Anyway.
Okay, so in closing, to wrap everything up, because we can be here for quite a bit, we're going to ask, what are you reading? What are you listening to? We're going to eliminate what are you watching, because we've just learned that you do not own a television. We're doing a GoFundMe for him for the television. But so what are you listening to? What are you reading?
I listen to everything, but on Sunday mornings I start my week by listening to Puccini's. It's my favorite mass. I'm not particularly religious, to be honest. I just feel that there's some.
So
connection.
Puccini Misa is basically a Catholic mass. This is church service for all you heathens
it's a
out
composition,
there.
yeah.
It's a composition. So you celebrate mass through music.
Yeah.
For those who are not Catholic, that's what it is. I think sometimes
And they speak Latin. I don't understand
Yes.
anything they say, but let me tell you, if you listen to that thing, it doesn't matter whether you believe in God or not. If you just listen to it, when it has a different effect.
I grew up Catholic, so I had to learn Latin and
Yeah.
like do mass in Latin. So now I have a huge appreciation for what you're talking about. So that is Sunday.
That's what I do. So now, and then the rest of the week, what I do is actually, let me answer both questions: reading and
listening.
Yeah, because I kind of combine everything now that my life is a little bit narrowed down.
Yeah.
I'm up latest 6 a.m. daily. Why? Because of course now I'm jobless and
Shout out to Corona.
But I prefer rising before the sun, just so when the energies are low, so you can just sort of prepare the day. And then I read. On. So I have a different set of books. One is a set of books on psychology. One is a set of books on philosophy. And the other type of I don't have books for this, but I do it online. Strangely enough, quantum physics, astrophysics. Just because I feel like if I understand how the world works, I'll understand myself better.
Yes.
Yeah. To the point that I realized that my education was very, very, very limiting. Come on, man. Our science we're still talking about revolution around the sun. Do we really know how this universe works? Anyway, so I just got too curious anyway about those things, and I made it my life. So I study. So in the morning, so I'll do this. I'll play. I'll read in the morning, whatever. I'll start with the psychology. I practice for 1.5 hours. I chill. I eat breakfast. I listen to So I start listening to the early music, like classical baroque
music. Yeah.
And then afternoon, I'll go into a bit of jazz. 6 p.m. when I'm going to my gym mode and I'm doing my skipping and everything. I now of course play genge and stuff like that.
Okay.
My Roisambu is still.
Your Roisambu is still strong. The Roisambu is strong.
I listen to Karen music a lot, generally speaking.
Yeah.
But I mostly listen to classical music.
Classical music.
Yeah.
Mr. David Ralak, it has been amazing having you here. I think you have shared with us a lot that we would not have realized. This has been the podcast that speaks to creatives about how they're charting their craft into business. My name is Eric. I'm the host of this particular podcast, and we really look forward to seeing you next time. But for now, I'll let David Ralak have the last word. Shout out, yes.
Shout out to everyone. I'm really hold on. Corona is really taking a toll on everyone. But if this is encouragement, 99% of the times the pandemics they ended.
Yes.
Yeah, they ended. So maybe just sort of see how you can hold on. Just try and stay alive. Once you've figured out how to stay alive, look around. There's someone who needs your help and give help. I think we shouldn't be starving. It's strange. There's a pandemic, but then we're gonna die of starvation.
Yeah, that's true.
It's strange.
Wise words from David Lack. Thank you very much. We'll see you next time.